Hi, what's up guys? So today's another day on the SC. We are 2 days away from the drift event. So today's Thursday, the event is Saturday morning. I already rented a U-Haul trailer for tomorrow night. I gotta pick it up. And the SC, which is still on jack stands with no wheels on it, still needs a little bit of work left done to it. So if you remember, a little while ago I said that I wanted to drive up to ISC, give them their splitter, and also pick up a set of coilovers at the same time. Well, I was going to do that on my week off, but I got in contact with the owner of ISC. He checked their stock to see if they had a set in stock, and they didn't. So I've been waiting on coilovers for a couple weeks now because they had to order them. So it's pretty uncommon for them to have a set of coilovers in stock for a 92 SC if the company themselves doesn't have a kit in stock. So we had to wait for one of those to arrive, and it just came in yesterday through ISC, and they're up in New Hampshire, and they next dayed them to me today in Connecticut. So huge thank you to ISC. They're always a huge help with whatever problem I have suspension wise. So I have the coilovers right over there, and we're gonna throw those in today. Matt's coming a little while, and he's gonna help me bleed the brakes and bleed the hydro, and then besides that, it's basically all set. So the other day I came here and I wired up both the tail lights. So now both the tail lights work. I put all the body panels back on. The racing seat that I have that I was going to use is not going to work for my setup, so I have to order a new seat, and at the same time I'm just going to order 2 seats, so I have one for the passenger side as well. So for this event I have to use the stock seat, obviously stock passenger seat. So that's the only downfall right now, but I got my new steering wheel. I got my Sparco steering wheel in here. When I ordered it, I didn't actually know that it was going to be suede on the outside. I thought it was just going to be leather wrapped, but this is suede. Not upset about that because I like suede. It's not ideal for drifting, but I actually like the steering wheel so much I actually might put this one in the BRZ and then just order another one for this car. And then, other than that, the other day when I was here, I mounted the fire extinguisher. The funny thing is, in the Impreza, when I mounted my fire extinguisher, I had to mount it down here in front of my seat. But the center console and everything is so freaking long with this car that I was able to mount it just right there. So it's literally in reach. So that's an awesome spot for it. It doesn't get in the way of anything, which is great. So then basically everything that's in here is all set to go. We just have to bleed the hydro a little bit later. So along with that stuff, yesterday when I was here, I took the front struts out. Just to get ready for these coilovers, because I was talking to ISC yesterday about them next daying them for me today. And in order to take these coils out, you have to unbolt this factory upper control arm, because the strut is so long that you need to move this out of the way in order to get the strut out. So it uses this super long bolt that I'll show you. Actually, it's right there. Super long bolt that goes from one side to the other, and I thought for sure it was going to be seized in there because that would be an ideal spot to have something frozen. But thankfully the previous owner, I guess, replaced these at one point, and the entire bolt is anti-seized, so it came right out. So huge thank you to the previous owner that it was actually super easy to get those bolts out. Nothing gave me a struggle. I also eyeballed the rear alignment, so the rear is no longer towed in a lot, so everything's just set basically how it's going to be for this drift event, because I'm not going to have enough time to bring it to an alignment rack. And then same with this side, I got it all set up as well. So literally just waiting on coilovers to put in, bleed the brakes, bleed the hydro, put the wheels on, and we're done. So now while I wait for Matt to come to bleed the brakes, I'm going to start throwing the coilovers in. So since I already have the front apart, I'm going to start doing that. And then the rear is basically apart. Well, there's nothing that needs to come apart anyway for the rear. I'm just going to start with the front because I already have that taken apart, and then we'll work our way to the back. I feel like there's going to be a lot of adjusting when it comes to the height on these things because the coilovers don't really come preset to a height because you have to set the preload and then adjust the collars and stuff however you like. But so I don't have rear struts, but I have these front struts still. So this is basically how it just comes in the box, but I don't think this is where it's going to have to be. I think I'm going to have to extend this out a little bit. And I still need to adjust the preload. Like, all of this stuff is still loose. But I need to try and get some type of judgment of how low it actually has to be. Because the factory strut was obviously, I never really had it on the ground, so I can't really tell, but it had like that much wheel gap or so, maybe like 2 inches or so. So you would think maybe like 2 inches of this would equal, like, you know, there's probably 4 inches of difference maybe. And then you also have to think that that spring is going to compress a lot more than the coilover spring will. So I might just maybe extend this like an inch and then match the other one in the front, and then we'll just go from there. And then the rear I'm going to have to kind of just eyeball because I don't have anything to, compare it to. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to adjust the preload, and then obviously just setting the ride height. I showed you guys all this in the ISF coilover video that I filmed, but then the mic that I'm using right now wasn't plugged in all the way. So I never posted that video because I didn't have any sound. So I'll just show you guys I'll show you guys right now since I didn't have it before. But so basically the preload is how much spring tension you want on this thing. So ISC recommends starting with just 5 millimeter, 5 millimeter of spring load on it. And the way you do that is basically I just spin this down just so then the spring kind of like moves. So it moves like that. What I do is I just tighten this back up until it just barely puts any tension on it, just so it's kind of just like preventing it from moving up and down. Just like that. So now the spring doesn't move. So now what I'll do is I'll bring this up just about to it, just so it's not touching, so it can still move. Just like that. And now I'll get this bigger one and thread this big collar until there's a 5 millimeter gap in between both of these collars. And what I didn't know that ISC actually showed me is that their spanners are just about, or like basically exactly 5 millimeters thick. So you can actually use this as your gauge, basically your feeler gauge, to see how much spacing there is in there. So I'm gonna go just thread this up and I'll show you the spacing after that. Okay, so now I just threaded this one up more. So now the spring has tension on it, and if you just grab their spanner, it'll just go right in. So now you know that it's been 5 millimeter, compressed. Now all you need to do is just bring this one up, tighten both of them opposite each other. So this smaller one will go this way. This one, you just put tension on it going that way, so they like tighten into each other, so they don't come loose. Now this one stays loose until you do a final adjustment of the ride height. So now I'm just going to tighten these two up, and then I'm just going to extend this an inch. Alright, so I actually ended up extending it 2 inches because after spinning this collar, I realized that it was in the max low position. So I raised it 2 inches. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to still probably raise it more, but for now it is good enough. This I just left a little bit of hand tight because I'm probably going to have to go back and adjust it anyway once it's in the car. Just keep it locked down just a little bit so this thing doesn't try and like spin and stuff while you're installing it. And since that I'm already standing here at this side, I'm going to go and install it right in there. Alright, so that was nice and easy. Lower strut bolt is in. Can't really see it. It's on the other side of the sway bar. There it is. And the long bolt literally goes from that all the way over to there. That's like, I don't know, probably 10 inches or so. But everything is loose right now, so I just gotta go grab all the tools and tighten it up. Alright, so this side's all back together. This speed sensor wire was zip tied to begin with, so I just threw some zip ties on it anyway. And not that it's really gonna work because the rear ones I broke, but I decided to leave this fender liner out. It's gonna get probably caught by a wheel anyway, So now I just have the upper one, and I'm just gonna move over to the other front side. So Matt showed up. Matt's my reinforcements. He's gonna throw the rear coilover in while I'm still working on the front. And I'm gonna help him at this point. I'll bring it up, and I'll throw these nuts on.
Hub side.
You what?
I need to jack up the hub a lot.
No, just bring the, just, let's get the top nuts on first.
So you want to just do it
Yeah,
like that?
that way it hangs. And while I'm back here, I might as well do the opposite side too. Reach the third. Alright, 3. You let go.
The bottom?
Yeah. You can let go of that. Try and see if these work for it. Got a bunch of random bolts and washers.
You got a wire cutter?
Yeah. Alright, so as you guys just saw, it's just the 3 on top. And then the way these are set up is that it attaches to the lower control arm just by right here. So Matt's over there just using the jack to jack up on the control arm so this meets the coilover.
You can film over here if you want, because I'm already doing it.
And then that's it. And then you just tighten them down. And then you're good to go. Alright, so now I'm going to move all my tools over to the passenger front. And I'm going to get that thing going. Alright, so I haven't really done anything on the camera recently. But we got all the coilovers in, and we just finished bleeding the brakes and the hydro. We had one leak on the hydro right at the T-fitting, but we were able to fix that. And right now, Matt just adjusted the left rear coilover. I have to adjust the right rear just a little bit just to get them to match, and then we're going to put it down on the ground and see what it looks like. So right now, this is what the front's going to look like. It's going to be sitting pretty low, and the coilover still have to settle, so I might actually have to raise that up a little bit, but we'll just see after I get the rear on, well, rear down on the ground. Okay, for the first time ever with me owning this car, it's actually going to be on 4 wheels. As you guys know, the whole subframe was all messed up. We rebuilt that. Now it's finally time to actually see this thing on all 4 wheels. By just taking these little things out. Now hopefully the jack doesn't get stuck underneath it. Alright. Moment of truth. Look at that. On all 4 wheels. Finally, it could actually run in, like, it could actually drive. I definitely have to raise the front. That thing's so low. It's so much lower because it's been on those things the whole time. Jeez. That thing's gonna be sweet. Alright, so here we go. A couple hours later, and the SC is actually on the ground. It actually is moving under its own power. Me and Matt just tried it out in first gear and reverse, and it actually moves. It actually stops. The hydro works. The next thing is we're gonna go take it up and down the street, but we need to get gas first for it. And we're gonna have it do its first donut, just to see if it's actually capable, with which it should actually be, because the diff is welded and everything. But we're gonna get to see how it performs, how it's gonna do. And I just finished up raising the front a little bit because it was like slammed that you guys saw before. And even though it looked good, it was gonna rub, and it was most likely not gonna fit on the U-Haul trailer. So now the wheel gap in the front is just this. It's still decent. It's like, I don't know, about 1 inch. The rear is still, I'd say a little bit, it's about flush. But the good part is that since we cut everything out on the inside, it's not gonna touch the quarter panel. I'm gonna do all final adjustment of ride height and everything once I go do the alignment. So for this drift event, it's gonna be set up exactly how it is. Once it's back, I'm gonna register it and insure it so I could drive it, and then I'll bring it over to work. I'll put it up on the lift, adjust all the suspension how I need, throw it on the alignment rack. So then now I'm gonna throw on a couple decals on the sides, and we'll go get some gas for it. Alright, we just did the donuts. Matt's pulling it in. It did the donuts perfectly fine. The hydro actually worked really well too. So now the next thing is just gotta load it up tomorrow night. And we're headed to New Hampshire. So until then, don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you later. Bye.